The Kid, Ace of the ETO. Warning: the engine note you hear is not merely the roar of a Mustang. It is the sound of destiny, screamed out at 400 miles per hour by a boy who flew too high and burned too bright. This is not a story about grim resolve or quiet duty. This is the electrifying, tragic tale of Ralph K. "Kid" Hofer, a farm boy from Salem, Missouri, who became the most audacious, spectacular, and controversial American fighter pilot of World War II's European Theater of Operations, or ETO. A genuine throwback to the barnstormers of the Roaring Twenties, Hofer treated the most lethal war in history like a personal aerial rodeo. He was not just an airman, he was a phenomenon. A walking, talking legend whose brashness, charm, and sheer disregard for the rules captivated an entire nation and infuriated the generals who had to manage his genius. In an era of disciplined air warriors like Gabreski and Johnson, Hofer was a wild card, a self-appointed one-man air force whose missions often ended with enemy planes exploding in flames and his commanding officers exploding in rage. He flew a P-51 Mustang named Salem Representative with the reckless abandon of a man convinced of his own invincibility. And for a glorious, terrible period in 1944, he very nearly was. The wild goose flies east. The date was September 19, 1943. The location was Debden, England, home of the famed 4th Fighter Group. The air was thick with the smell of damp earth, aviation fuel, and cold fear. But inside the ready room, only one man radiated pure, unadulterated swagger. A 22-year-old kid with a shock of unruly brown hair and a smile that promised trouble. This was Ralph Hofer, fresh from a successful but brief tour in North Africa, where he'd already snagged a handful of enemy kills and earned the nickname Kid. The 4th Group was legendary. Formed from American volunteers who had flown for the RAF's Eagle squadrons, they were the elite, the tip of the aerial spear. They looked at the brash newcomer, who transferred from the 334th Fighter Squadron, with a mix of skepticism and awe. The Kid was an anomaly. His combat reports were sparse in detail, but heavy on drama. His personal style involved discarding any official uniform item he found uncomfortable, usually replacing them with a custom-made silk scarf and a battered Lucky leather helmet. Hofer, Major James A. Clark barked, pointing at a large map of occupied Europe. Today you're on a deep penetration escort mission. Target, Messerschmitt factories deep in Germany. The bomber boys need us to fly wingtip to wingtip until we hit the initial point. Then sweep the area. Stick to the plan. Stick to the formation. Any deviation and you'll be grounded. He just grinned, a flash of white against his tanned face. Yes, sir. Formation flying. Got it. Like ducks on a pond, Major. He didn't mean it, and everyone knew it. Hofer viewed a formation as a necessary inconvenience, a brief formality before the real fun began. He didn't hunt in packs. He preferred the solitary, balletic violence of a lone wolf. His style was aggressive to the point of being suicidal. He would dive headlong into a swarm of Luftwaffe fighters, emerge miraculously unscathed, and leave a trail of burning wrecks in his wake. He climbed into the cockpit of his new P-47 Thunderbolt, the Jug. He preferred the P-51, which hadn't yet fully arrived in the ETO, but the Thunderbolt was a brute, a sturdy, fast, and heavily armed flying tank. As he taxied out, he gave a casual two-finger salute to the ground crew. The duel over Kassel. The mission was hellacious. Flak, German anti-aircraft fire, was thick and black, blooming in angry clouds around the B-17 flying fortresses. The Luftwaffe response was immediate and vicious. Focke-Wulf FW-190s and Messerschmitt Bf-110s tore into the bomber boxes with coordinated attacks. The fourth group, flying top cover, slammed into the German fighters. Tracer fire crisscrossed the sky, and the air filled with the stench of cordite. Hofer stuck to his formation for precisely 8 minutes after crossing the coast. Then he saw his chance. A flight of 4 Bf-110s were making a pass on the lead bomber box, their 20mm cannons spitting fire. Hofer, ignoring the strict formation discipline, simply dropped his nose, firewalling the throttle. "Here we go, fellas," he murmured into his oxygen mask. His dive was a controlled plummet, a gravity-defying maneuver that left the rest of his squadron high and dry. He came out of the sun and leveled off behind the last Bf-110. He didn't bother with a burst. He simply held the trigger down. The P-47's 8 50-caliber machine guns hammered, an unbelievably violent spray of lead. The 110 shuddered, its engine exploded, and it fell away in a flat spin trailing black smoke. Instead of rejoining the formation, Hofer pulled a high G turn, ignoring the grayout, and spotted his next target, a lone Focke-Wulf FW-190 breaking away. This was the key to Hofer's success. He didn't just break up an attack, he chased the enemy with a single-mindedness that unnerved even the Germans. The chase was brief. Hofer's Thunderbolt was faster in the dive. He closed the distance, lining up the German fighter in his sight. The German pilot tried a desperate barrel roll, but Hofer anticipated it, adjusting his aim with the twitch of his thumb. Bam! 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 His round stitched a line down the FW-190's fuselage, tearing into the cockpit and setting the wing root on fire. The German pilot bailed out, a tiny, terrified figure dangling beneath a white canopy. Hofer, low on fuel and well out of the fight, decided he wasn't done. He spotted an airfield far below, a small satellite strip used by the Germans for emergency landings. He grinned. The audacity was about to start. Ignoring all protocol, the direct order to escort the bombers, the common sense to preserve his fuel, Hofer banked steeply and dove toward the unsuspecting enemy airfield. He ripped across the field at mast height, guns blazing, strafing 2 Junkers Ju-52 transport planes that were being refueled. The transports erupted in flames, sending debris scattering. As he pulled up, a column of German trucks on an adjacent road opened fire with machine guns. Hofer laughed, a genuine, joyful sound even through the static of his radio. He returned fire, scattering the trucks and the men. Finally, dangerously low on fuel and deep in enemy territory, Hofer turned west and headed for England. The Reckoning. When Hofer landed at Debden hours later, the field was quiet and the mood was solemn. The fourth group had lost 3 pilots. He taxied in, shut down the engine, and swung himself out of the cockpit, looking completely unruffled. Major Clark was waiting for him, his face a mask of fury. "Where in the blazing hell have you been, Lieutenant?" Clark's voice was low, dangerous. "You broke formation, violated escort orders, and flew an unauthorized deep strafing run." Hofer shrugged, adjusting his silk scarf. "Well, Major, I got 2 B-110s, 1 190, 2 Ju-52s, and scattered a convoy of trucks. I also saw a big lonely barn on the way back. Figured the Krauts were probably keeping something important in there, so I shot it up, too, just in case." Clark stared at him, speechless. The audacity was simply breathtaking. 3 confirmed air kills and 3 destroyed aircraft on the ground, an astounding feat for a single mission. But the rule-breaking was equally monumental. "Lieutenant, you are an exceptional pilot. You are also a menace to good order and discipline. You could have been shot down. You could have run out of fuel. Your actions put the entire mission at risk. Do you have any regard for the rules of this war?" Hofer took a long drag on his cigar, exhaling smoke rings into the cold air. "Major, the Germans have rules too, and I'm doing my darndest to break every one of them. Isn't that what we're here for?"
Clark, defeated by the man's undeniable genius and equally undeniable stubbornness, could only sigh and walk away, muttering, "The kid is going to be the death of me." Ralph K. "Kid" Hofer had arrived in the ETO. The air war would never be the same. He was a rocket, streaking across the European sky, destined either to shoot down every German plane he saw or to be consumed by his own terrifying brilliance. The Salem Representative arrives. Ralph Hofer. Ralph Hofer's stunning performance in the skies over Kassel, coupled with his blatant insubordination, created a paradox for the commanders of the 334th Fighter Squadron and the 4th Fighter Group. He was a phenomenal pilot who shattered the rules but delivered unparalleled results. For every dressing down he received from Major Clark, he earned another commendation. He was the only pilot who seemed to genuinely enjoy dogfighting, treating the brutal chess match of aerial combat like a thrilling, personal sport. Becoming an ace and the Mustang magic. The period between late 1943 and early 1944 was critical for the USAAF in the ETO. Long-range bomber missions deep into Germany, the lifeblood of the strategic bombing campaign, were proving prohibitively costly. The P-47 Thunderbolt was a sturdy fighter, but it lacked the range and high-altitude performance to stick with the bombers all the way to targets like Berlin. The solution arrived in the form of the P-51B and P-51C Mustang. Equipped with the legendary British-designed Rolls-Royce engine, built by Packard in the U.S. as the V1650, the Mustang was a revelation. It had the speed, ceiling, and, most importantly, the massive range, thanks to the droppable external fuel tanks needed to escort the B-17s and B-24s into the heart of the Reich. This change was exactly what Ralph Hofer's aggressive style demanded. Hofer finally traded his Thunderbolt for a sleek silver P-51B. He immediately christened it the Salem Representative, a nod to his hometown in Missouri, and had the name painted in bold letters on the nose. He also insisted on a uniquely audacious paint job. The lower half of his rudder was painted bright red, making his aircraft instantly recognizable in a fight. This wasn't merely vanity, it was an invitation. He wanted the enemy to know exactly who was coming for them. By February 1944, Hofer had reached ace status, achieving 5 confirmed aerial victories faster than almost any pilot in the 4th Fighter Group. But unlike other aces, Hofer's victories often came with a footnote of disciplinary action. Note on Hofer's tactics. While other pilots valued energy management and coordinated attacks, Hofer excelled at pure instinctive deflection shooting, the art of aiming ahead of a moving target. He would often engage multiple enemy aircraft simultaneously, using his Mustang speed to dictate the fight and evade retaliatory fire, frequently flying so low that his prop wash would kick up dust clouds from the German countryside. The Berlin Run, March 6, 1944. The first major American daylight raid on Berlin, dubbed Big B, on March 6, 1944, was the proving ground for the Mustang and its pilots. The Luftwaffe threw everything they had at the formations. It was an epic, continuous fight that began over the Netherlands and didn't end until the Mustangs broke off over the target area. Hofer flew with the deadly efficiency of a predator. He was assigned to escort a box of B-17s that were taking heavy damage. In a swirling melee of contrails and cannon fire, Hofer single-handedly broke up 3 separate passes from groups of Bf-109s and FW-190s equipped with rockets. His official combat report from that day, terse and lacking the flowery language his comrades sometimes used, simply stated 4 kills. 1. Bf-109, flamed at 25,000 feet after a short burst. 2. FW-190, blew up, pilot did not bail out. 3. Bf-109, took fire in the engine, went into a flat spin. 4. FW-190, Wing snapped off following a hard turn, probably hit by my rounds. This single mission cemented Hofer's status as a top ace, putting him among the most prolific scorers in the group. He was now a double ace. The kid's reputation and the general's fury. Hofer's growing fame began to transcend the airfields of England and reached the American press. They loved his nickname, his swagger, and his incredible tally. He was the quintessential American hero, a fearless, wisecracking Midwesterner defying the deadly seriousness of the war. But the general staff, particularly the Bomber Command brass, had a different view. Hofer's primary crime was his relentless pursuit of the kill over the mission. His orders were to protect the bombers. But once a fight started, Hofer would often chase damaged German planes down to the deck or fly off in search of enemy airfields to strife, leaving his assigned position. On one mission in April 1944, Hofer was credited with 3 air victories and 4 destroyed aircraft on the ground, yet he was nearly court-martialed. He had flown far beyond his designated patrol zone and was forced to crash land in Allied-held France, only to be recovered days later. He claimed he was just checking out the local scenery. Colonel Don Blakesley, the legendary hard-driving commander of the 4th Fighter Group, and arguably the best tactical mind in the ETO, found himself constantly defending Hofer. He knew Hofer was a tactical nightmare, but he also knew his value. "The kid is a damn fool," he once admitted. "He's undisciplined, reckless, and he doesn't listen to a single order. But damn it, he is the best natural shot I've ever seen, and every German fighter he shoots down is one less facing my bombers. I'd rather spend all day yelling at Hofer than lose one B-17. This tension defined Hofer's career. He was promoted rapidly due to his scores, but continuously demoted or had his promotion delayed due to his conduct. He received the Distinguished Flying Cross and the Silver Star, but his personnel file was thicker with reprimands than with commendations. The flight of the 8th Air Force Jester. As the war entered its crucial summer phase, with the invasion of Europe looming, Hofer became the unofficial jester and morale booster for the entire 8th Air Force. His stunts were legendary. The beer run. He once supposedly flew his Mustang under a cloud base so low into a Dutch town that he managed to land briefly, obtain local liquor and tobacco, and take off before the German garrison could respond effectively, a story that was likely exaggerated but widely believed. The target practice. He famously used a German toilet attached to a supply warehouse roof for target practice during a strafing run, claiming he wanted to take the fight to the enemy's plumbing. By June 1944, Hofer's official tally stood near 15 confirmed kills in the air, plus dozens of destroyed or damaged planes on the ground. He was a hero in the enlisted men's barracks and a constant headache for the officers. His legend peaked in the weeks following D-Day, June 6, 1944, when the air war intensified to protect the beachheads. He flew almost daily, often returning with flak holes peppering the Salem Representative, but always with fresh victories to report.